Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching the weekend edition of Newsnight on DD India, your primetime destination for news and bespoke analysis. It's good to see you again. Right, on the show tonight, a new study by experts in New Delhi and London says a new surge in new COVID-19 infections, if it occurs in the future in India, could be substantially mitigated by the expansion of vaccination. We will have guests over to help you understand the findings of this study. Also on the show, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviews progress of vaccination drive. Also, he reviews plans for turning the temple town of Ayodhya into a spiritual and global tourism hub. Plus, news and updates from India and the world. All that and much more coming up over the next 1 hour. But first, as always, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds a high-level meeting to review progress of vaccination, ensures that the pace of testing does not go down as testing remains a very important weapon to track and contain rising infections in any region. Health Ministry monitors the Delta Plus variant cases reported from some parts of the country. The Indian Council of Medical Research says Covaccine and Covaceal vaccines are effective against the coronavirus variants, including Delta. India's vaccination coverage crosses the 310 million mark. The number of people recovering from COVID-19 continues to outnumber new infections for the 44th consecutive day. Recovery rate further rises to 96.72%, over 48,000 new cases reported in the last 24 hours. Prime Minister Modi reviews plans to develop Ayodhya as a spiritual and global tourism hub and a smart city. Says Ayodhya development work should be guided by a spirit of healthy public participation, especially youths. The central government renews offer of talks with farmers. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar says a majority of farmers support the new Farm Acts. Protesters violate COVID-19 guidelines at a number of places. External Affairs Minister EAM Jaishankar holds talks with Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Greece. Both sides exchange views on further consolidating the bilateral relations. And US President Joe Biden hosts Afghanistan President Ashraf Ghani and High Council for National Reconciliation Chairperson Abdullah at the White House. Calls on Afghans to decide their future as Americans begin pulling out from the war-torn country. Says US support for Afghanistan will continue after pullout. Right, first up, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a meeting where he expressed satisfaction at the rising speed of vaccinations in this week. He stressed that it is important to carry this momentum forward. He asked officials to ensure that the pace of testing does not go down as testing remains a very important weapon to track and contain rising infections in any region. He said efforts should be made to help all countries with India's rich tech expertise in the form of Covet platform. More in the next report.
The centre's efforts in containing the spread of COVID-19 pandemic is bearing good results as the cases in India continue to decline. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is closely monitoring the strategy of preventing infection and increasing vaccination across the country. The Prime Minister held a meeting on Saturday reviewing the progress of the nationwide vaccination drive. Senior officials, including Health Ministry officials, attended the meeting. It is to be noted that after the commencement of the new phase of universalization of COVID-19 vaccination by the centre from 21st June, the vaccination campaign across the country has picked up momentum with the efforts of both the union and state governments. About 7 million vaccine doses have been administered daily on an average. So far, about 31.50 crore vaccine doses have been administered under the nationwide vaccination drive, while 40 crore COVID-19 tests have been conducted till date across the country. Meanwhile, India has reported 48,698 new cases in the last 24 hours, which is less than 50,000, recorded for the second time in last 5 days. Daily recoveries continue to outnumber the daily new cases for the 44th consecutive day, whereas 64,818 patients recovered during the last 24 hours, whereas the recovery rate stands at 96.72%. India's active caseload declines to 5,95,565, less than 6 lakh after 86 days. The daily positivity rate currently stands at 2.79%, which is less than 5% for 19 consecutive days. Meanwhile, no COVID-19 case has been reported from the 21 districts of Uttar Pradesh, according to the UP's Health Department, whereas around 10 cases have been reported from 52 districts of Uttar Pradesh. Despite a decline in number of cases, Uttar Pradesh's Varanasi extends weekend lockdown to further contain the spread of the virus. The state has reported 173 fresh cases, while 328 patients have recovered in the last 24 hours. In Madhya Pradesh, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan inaugurated COVID care facility in Mandla district via video conferencing. The CM further said that the new facilities being provided will act as milestone and help in further containing the pandemic.
हमने ये व्यवस्थाएं खड़ी की है 60 बिस्तर के अस्पताल, जिसमें ऑक्सीजन बेड भी है, बच्चों का वार्ड भी है, आधुनिक सारे इक्विपमेंट्स है। अगर जरूरत पड़ी तो ये जनता की बहुत बेहतर सेवा कर पाएगा। स्वास्थ्य से संबंधित या वैक्सीनेशन का काम हो, टीकाकरण का काम हो या सैंपल लेने का काम हो, इसको खाली ना छोड़े। ऐसा नहीं कि पेशेंट नहीं है कोविड के तो बिस्तर और अस्पताल खाली रहे। बिस्तर भरने की बात मैं नहीं कर रहा, लेकिन वैक्सीनेशन का सेंटर बन सकता है। अनेकों कोविड से संबंधित गतिविधियों का संचालन, बीमारियों, अगर कोई दूसरी बीमारी का भी कोई पेशेंट आ जाए तो उसके इलाज की व्यवस्था भी हम कर सकते हैं।
In Maharashtra, people were seen flouting COVID-19 protocol with crowds thronging the Crawford market in Mumbai. However, in the midst of all this, the government has decided to allow relaxation in Pune. Restaurants, food courts will be open from Monday to Friday, allowing 50% seating capacity. However, only home delivery will be allowed on Saturdays and Sundays. Social, religious and entertainment events will be allowed from Monday to Friday with a maximum limit of 50 people. Gyms, salons, spa centers in Pune will open till 4 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. Liquor shops will remain open from Monday to Friday till 4 p.m. But malls and multiplexes, religious places will remain closed. Meanwhile, in West Bengal, fraud cases in vaccination drive have been reported. Leader of opposition in the West Bengal Assembly, Shubhendu Adhikari, has written a letter to Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan calling for a thorough probe in the Kolkata fraud vaccine case. On the other hand, in the border villages of Rajouri in Jammu and Kashmir, people are being vaccinated with the help of the Indian Army. The citizens are being made aware on the importance of vaccination through door-to-door campaign. Bureau Report, DD India.
All right, let me now dive straight into our cover story. Now, a new study says a third wave of COVID-19, if it occurs, is not likely to be as severe as a second wave. It's been authored by Indian Council of Medical Research Director General Balram Bhargav, among others. The study also says vaccination could substantially reduce the overall burden during a possible third wave of the coronavirus. In a related development, the ICMR chief has said that Covaccine and Covaceal vaccines work against all the coronavirus variants, including Delta. The next report tells you more. A study published by the Indian Journal of Medical Research says the emergence of a third wave of the coronavirus could be substantially mitigated by the expansion of vaccination. It has been authored by Sandeep Mandal, Balram Bhargav and Samiran Panda from the Indian Council of Medical Research, New Delhi, and Nimalan Arinaminpathy from Imperial College, London. The study says a rapid scale-up of vaccination efforts could play an important role in mitigating these and future waves of the disease, and it is unlikely for any such resurgence to be as large as the second wave. However, the study cautions that projections based on mathematical modeling analysis are subject to several uncertainties. Therefore, it is important to scale up vaccination coverage to mitigate against any eventuality. Meanwhile, vaccinations are continuing apace. The Indian Council of Medical Research says it has achieved the milestone of conducting 400 million COVID-19 tests. The ICMR said in a statement that this has been enabled by rapidly increasing testing infrastructure and capacity across the country. ICMR has been enhancing COVID-19 testing capability across the country by expanding and diversifying testing capacity by leveraging technology and facilitating innovation in affordable diagnostic kits. Professor Balram Bhargav, Director General of ICMR, said this testing milestone is testimony to the fact that India has been successful in implementing the strategy of 5T approach: test, track, trace, treat and use of technology efficiently, which will enable us to contain the spread of the pandemic. Addressing a press conference in New Delhi on Friday, Professor Balram Bhargav said the Covaceal and Covaceal vaccines work against all the coronavirus variants, including Delta. Tests on the efficacy of the vaccines against the Delta Plus variant are ongoing. Talking about the Delta Plus variant, he said it is present in 12 countries. There are 48 cases in India, but they are very localized. He added that it is possible to avert a third wave provided people adhere to COVID-appropriate behavior. Bureau Report, DD India. Right now, experts associated with the Health Department said in DD News' special program Arogya Bharat that the next round of pandemic is not likely to come due to the Delta Plus variant. Experts said the vaccines being given in the country are effective against this variant. Now, EAM's director, Dr. Randeep Guleria, said following the basic COVID protocol and getting vaccinated can prevent the next wave of the pandemic from coming. He highlighted that the Delta Plus variant will not be responsible if at all the next wave arises.
तो डेल्टा प्लस वेरिएंट अभी जो सर्कुलेशन है इट इज नॉट द डोमिनेंट सर्कुलेटिंग स्ट्रेन, तो ये कहना ठीक नहीं रहेगा कि डेल्टा प्लस के कारण वेव आएगी. अगर वेव आएगी तो हमारे व्यवहार के कारण आएगी. अगर हम कोविड अप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर नहीं अपनाएंगे तो हम वायरस को फैलने देंगे, चाहे वो डेल्टा प्लस हो या डेल्टा हो या कोई और भी वेरिएंट हो, और उसके कारण वेव जरूर आएगी और जल्दी आएगी. अगर हम ये सब कुछ करेंगे तो हम फिर तीसरी वेव को रोक सकते हैं, उसको डिले कर सकते हैं, या उसका इतना ज्यादा इफेक्ट नहीं होगा.
The National Center for Disease Control Director Dr. Sujit Kumar Singh highlighted the fact that being from the family of the Delta variant that was already a variant of concern, the Delta Plus is also under the same category. He said it will not necessarily be responsible for another wave of the pandemic.
डेल्टा प्लस क्या है? डेल्टा वेरिएंट का ही एक सब लीनिएज एडिशनल म्यूटेशन के साथ उपस्थित हुआ है. इसको वेरिएंट ऑफ कंसर्न इसलिए कहा गया है क्योंकि ये डेल्टा वेरिएंट का सब लीनिएज है और डेल्टा वेरिएंट ऑलरेडी वीओसी है, वेरिएंट ऑफ कंसर्न, इसीलिए इसको भी वेरिएंट ऑफ कंसर्न कह दिया गया. वैक्सीन के बाद भी, और यही लोगों में चिंता का एक कारण बन सकता है. लेकिन डेल्टा प्लस को लेके अभी आज तक जो केसेस का हमको सब जगह देखने को मिला, तो ऐसा कोई साइंटिफिक एविडेंस नहीं मिला जिससे कि हम आज की तारीख में ये कह सकें कि ये जो है हमारे वैक्सीन को चकमा देगा. लेकिन इसको हमको आगे ऑब्जर्व करने की जरूरत है. जब तक हमारे पास और प्रमाण नहीं आते, हमको स्टैटिस्टिकली साइंटिफिक एविडेंस नहीं मिलते, तब तक हम इसको उस तरीके से नहीं देख सकते.
And the chairperson of the National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, Dr. N.K. Arora, highlighted that all the vaccines are completely safe and effective against the variants that have emerged.
व्यक्ति जो है उसको गंभीर बीमारी नहीं होनी चाहिए, उसको अस्पताल में दाखिल होने की जरूरत नहीं पड़नी चाहिए, उसको आईसीयू में दाखिल नहीं होने चाहिए और उसके दुर्भाग्य में मृत्यु नहीं लिखी हो. और ये देखा गया है कि हमारी सारी वैक्सीन्स इस मामले में, इन 4 मामले में 90 से 100% तक प्रभावी रहती हैं, तीनों वैक्सीन। तो इसका मतलब यह है कि एक आम आदमी के लिए यह जानना जरूरी है कि हमारी सारी वैक्सीन प्रभावी हैं, तभी हमारे राष्ट्रीय कार्यक्रम में चल रही हैं। पूरी दुनिया में जितनी भी वैक्सीन हैं, वेरिएंट्स के आने के बाद भी वो सीवियर डिजीज और डेथ के लिए पूरी तरह प्रभावी हैं।
Right, time now for our In Focus segment, in which we are discussing about study says vaccination drive could reduce impact of future COVID-19 waves. And joining me are 2 very special guests, Dr. Shashank Joshi, member, National COVID-19 Task Force and Professor of Endocrinology at Lilavati Hospital, Mumbai, and Dr. Rana A.K. Singh, Director and Medical Superintendent at the Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Medical Sciences and Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital in New Delhi. Dr. Joshi and Dr. Singh, welcome to DD India. Now, I have a long list of questions here, gentlemen. For the benefit of viewers tuning in from home and abroad, I'd like you to address each of those questions over the next, 15 or 20 minutes. So let's, if I may request you to keep it short, please. Now, Dr. Singh, if I can start with you, a quick word on the new study which says, 1, that the 3rd wave need not be or might not be as severe as a 2nd wave, and 2, vaccinations remain an important tool. More the vaccinations, less will be the impact of subsequent or future waves. Your thoughts, Dr. Singh?
I can't agree more with what you have just said. Why? Because 3rd wave should not come, will not come. But this will not be the on the default setting. All of us will have to put in our efforts to prevent, so that the 3rd wave never comes. And what those efforts are, 1 is the corona appropriate behavior, which we have followed rigorously. We have reaped the benefit in between the 1st and 2nd wave, when this deadly disease was, like nearly from us, and we became complacent and we paid the price in the form of 2nd wave. So now, if we have learned the lesson from the past, if we are going to religiously follow and rigorously follow the corona appropriate behavior, and if as and when we get the chance to get vaccinated, if we get ourselves vaccinated, if we combine these 2 weapons, I can foresee that 3rd wave will never come. But again, a word of caution, that if we compromise, if we shed off the precautions, if we dump the precautions, then the situation could be different.
Right. Dr. Joshi, coming to you now. Now, we are told that the number of new infections is declining steadily. Does that, therefore, can we assume that the 2nd wave is ending or has ended, number 1? And number 2, will the Delta Plus variant be responsible for future waves? Is that your assessment as well?
So the 2nd wave is not yet over. Definitely there is a clear-cut decline. And in some geographies of India, we are still reporting cases. Even today, we had 48,000 cases. But clearly in next 2 to 3 weeks, it will be at its lowest. Second thing is, it is unlikely that the Delta Plus will contribute to the next wave. Because right now also it is contributing to a very, very minuscule, I say minuscule, means less than 5% of the total number of Delta cases. Therefore, the data is too scant, too small, and if you ask me, the probability of it likely to be in the 3rd wave is low, but overall Delta is likely to be there. So that is only there. And it will be, if we are able to vaccinate a large population set, at least 70% of them in the next 3 to 6 months, and follow strict COVID appropriate behavior as Dr. Saab has said, then probably we will mutate the ferocity of the 3rd wave, or completely try to reduce the numbers dramatically.
Absolutely. Dr. Singh, again, this is a frequently asked question for the benefit of viewers tuning in from across the country in particular. Now, we are told that there are about 50-odd cases of Delta Plus variant specifically in some parts of the country. Now, what is your assessment? How quickly could it spread? What does science say? Can or could Delta Plus variant rise exponentially going forward?
See, I keep on asking this question to myself about this Delta Plus or Delta variants or other variants, those who has emerged on the horizon of this corona. What question do I ask to myself? How any of these variants are going to infect me? They will infect me if I do not follow the corona appropriate behavior. Suppose if I am wearing mask religiously, if I am maintaining social distancing, if I am following the hand hygiene technique, so then if these techniques have stopped the X strain, Y strain, all these strains they have come, this will stop this Delta and Delta Plus strain also to enter into me. So the strain is not a problem. The problem is that if we lower our guard, then even the Delta Plus strain was not there during the second wave and we have paid the price. So whatever strain comes is corona appropriate behavior. If we follow religiously, will not affect us. And if it does not affect us, we are not bothered. Now the second thing is about the vaccination. If we remember, the first vaccine was, made by Sir Edward Jenner against smallpox. We all know that smallpox has become history. We do not have smallpox in whole of the globe. How did his vaccine achieve this? He developed his vaccine not from the strain of this smallpox. He developed a vaccine from the cowpox. And a vaccine which was developed from the cowpox has eradicated a deadly disease like smallpox. So why can't our vaccines which we have developed, our scientists have developed in our laboratories, why will they not be effective against the COVID and the variants? I'm absolutely convinced. Of course, the data is going to emerge. There is no doubt about that. But taking cue from that smallpox vaccine, I'm convinced that if we get ourselves vaccinated, as and when we get our turn, and we follow the corona appropriate behavior religiously, we will not only stop the third wave, but also these two combined will be good enough for our fight against these mutating variants, whether it is Delta, Delta Plus. We will have to follow these two tools. We will have to use these two weapons against this deadly virus.
Okay, Dr. Joshi, I want you to dwell a bit more on this particular variant Delta Plus. Now, help our viewers understand something here. How much more transmissible is the Delta Plus variant as compared to the previous avatars or the variants Alpha, Beta, and Gamma? Number one. Number two, how does Delta Plus compare in terms of transmission, virulence, and reproduction?
Let me make 2-3 things very clear.
Sure.
The current variant is the Delta variant, which is predominantly in the Indian geography. The Alpha variant comes from United Kingdom, which is more transmissible and more virulent. The Beta variant comes from South African origin, which bypasses the vaccine predominantly and again is more transmissible. The Gamma variant comes from Brazil, and the Delta variant is predominantly in the Indian geography. The Delta Plus is the variant which is actually a misnomer, if you ask me, is AY1, which was first observed in the region of United Kingdom and followed by Nepal, and now only 41 cases have been reported in India. So first thing is it could even be Delta minus and it may not be Delta plus. The first thing is Delta variant itself has high transmissibility, fast recovery. We are not sure of the virulence of the Delta virus because we don't have adequate data. And one thing is very clear that the case fatality rate is possibly lower. Again, data is awaited. The predominant variant now in India is the Delta variant. In United Kingdom is also the Delta variant, and 25% of cases in United States are also Delta variant. The Delta plus, which is the AY1, has been observed in 41 cases, of which around 19 cases are in Maharashtra and other 10 states of India. This probably, in all the cases, 2 cases have died, but most of the cases had mild to moderate disease. The data sample set is too small and it didn't spread to multiple places. So if the original R0 of COVID virus was 3.5 and the Delta variant is 7, this may be a little less than 7. So probability of the early cases suggests that the transmissibility may be lower, virulence may be lesser, and therefore we are not so sure. But in United Kingdom, the data, why people are scared of Delta Plus, is it is believed to be as transmissible and similar to Delta variant, probably is directly affecting the lungs, and that is why a red flag was raised, and may bypass the response to monoclonal cocktail of antibody and may have an immune escape to vaccines. So those were the concerns raised in United Kingdom, but this has not been reproduced in India, and if we are able to geographically perimeter ring fence them, and probably all these data which came is also almost 4 week old. So if at all Delta Plus was a dominant variant, by now it would be again the wave would have started coming up again, which has not happened in the second wave. So it is unlikely that it will be, though it is a variant of concern, clearly it is much more sinister than the first wave variant, but is probably comparable or maybe a little less virulent and less transmissible than the original Delta which we saw in the second wave, which is a very reassuring sign, but we will need more data. It's only forming less than 5% of the total number of cases which are being reported in the places where genomic testing has been done.
Right. Dr. Singh, while we are awaiting new data, fresh data to corroborate some of the evidence coming out from some parts of the country, as we speak, the Delta Plus variant remains very much localized to small pockets in some parts of the country. But could you, for the benefit of viewers, repeat once again, are the existing vaccines available in the country effective against all variants, including Delta?
I have already shared my thoughts with the viewers.
Right.
Our vaccines should be effective against all variants.
Okay.
There is no doubt about that. But let us also not forget that data is emerging. Our scientists, they have developed those 2 vaccines in record time. They are still working day and night in those laboratories. So I am fairly reassured that if the data emerges and if our scientist comes to know that they have to do some modification in our existing vaccine to be more effective against one particular mutated strain, I'm sure they'll do it in record time. But by and large, I would believe that these vaccines which we are taking should be effective against different variants of the of this COVID-19 virus. As I said earlier, I will repeat, if a vaccine developed from the cowpox can eradicate the smallpox, why can't these vaccines be effective against the mutating strains of this virus? One thing also I like to repeat, that mutation in the life cycle of a virus is a known phenomena. It happens. So I think we should, again, I will repeat, we should follow corona appropriate behavior religiously, and without thinking, as and when our turn comes for vaccination, should come forward and get ourselves vaccinated.
Right. And finally, Dr. Joshi, I'll give you the last word. A couple of quick questions. What are the symptoms of Delta Plus variant in particular? Are they different or similar to other variants, number one? And number two, what does it mean in simple language when some people say that the Delta Plus can reduce, quote unquote, monoclonal antibody response? Dr. Joshi?
So the symptoms of Delta Plus are the same as normal coronavirus or the Delta virus.
Okay.
The mild to moderate symptoms are absolutely identical. They might have a little more abdominal symptoms, but otherwise the classical symptoms of dry cough, fever, shortness of breath, lack of taste and smell are very, very similar, but you can occasionally get diarrhea with them. So that's the only unusual part of it, or abdominal pain. As far as it's not responding to the cocktail of monoclonal antibodies, you see this is like the extract of the antibody which is removed from plasma, and these antibodies are commercially available. So it doesn't respond to the single antibody when they have used laboratory studies. However, the data on the cocktail of antibodies probably is responsive. So there is again no cause for concern. The antibody which is available in India possibly will respond to the Delta Plus variant also. So there is no need to panic. And also the vaccine fear is unfounded because we know 2 things was here, that if we get 2 vaccines and even if we get COVID, that COVID is going to be mild or moderate. It will not allow us to lose our lives, unfortunately, as well as prevent us from getting severe or critical disease. So the whole idea of vaccination is to save lives or save severe disease or critical disease.
Right, on that note, Dr. Joshi and Dr. Singh, thank you so much for making time for us here at DD India. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so that was our focus on the COVID-19 study. So viewers, do remember, follow COVID-appropriate behavior, wear a mask, follow hand hygiene in particular, wash your hands regularly, and always maintain physical distancing between yourself and people around you at all times. Right, moving on for now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday reviewed a development plan for Ayodhya. The Uttar Pradesh government officials made a presentation which encompassed various aspects of Ayodhya's development. The plan is to develop Ayodhya as a spiritual center, global tourism hub, and smart city. The Prime Minister was briefed about the status of infrastructure projects such as airport, railway station, bus station, roads, and highways to improve connectivity with Ayodhya. An upcoming greenfield township was also discussed. It includes lodging facilities for devotees, a space for ashrams, mutts, hotels, and bhavans of various states. A tourist facilitation center and a world-class museum will also be built. Now, special attention is being given to development of infrastructure around the Saryu River and its banks. A cruise on the Saryu River will also become a regular feature. The city will be developed to ensure sustainability with adequate spaces for cyclists and pedestrians alike. And traffic management will be done in a modern manner using smart city infrastructure. The Prime Minister described Ayodhya as a city that's etched in cultural consciousness of all Indians. He said Ayodhya should manifest the finest Indian traditions. Ayodhya is both spiritual and sublime. The human ethos of the city must be matched by futuristic infrastructure which is beneficial for everyone, including tourists and pilgrims. And he said future generations should feel a desire to visit Ayodhya at least once in their lifetime. He pointed out that developmental works in Ayodhya will continue in the foreseeable future as well. At the same time, momentum towards heralding Ayodhya to this next leap of progress must begin now. He said the way Lord Ram had the ability to bring people together, the development works of Ayodhya should be guided by a spirit of healthy public participation, especially youth. He called for leveraging the skills of youngsters for the development of the city. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and Deputy Chief Ministers Keshav Prasad Maurya and Dinesh Sharma and other ministers were present in this meeting. Moving on, the central government has reiterated that it remains open for talks with farmers. Now, Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar said a majority of farmers supported the new Farm Acts. Meanwhile, the farmers violated COVID guidelines at a number of places as they took out tractor rallies to mark completion of 7 months of their protest.
Farmers' protests continued across the country. On completing 7 months of protest, farmers undertook tractor rally in many parts of the country on Saturday. Many protesters blocked roads affecting routine travel of locals while flouting COVID-19 protocols. The protesters handed over memorandum to governors and lieutenant governors of states and union territories demanding repeal of farm laws. However, the centre has once again proposed to hold peaceful talks with protesting farmers.
सभी किसान यूनियंस के लोगों को कहना चाहता हूं कि उनको अपना आंदोलन समाप्त करना चाहिए। भारत सरकार ने 11 दौर की बातचीत उनके साथ की है। इन कानूनों के समर्थन में देश का बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा खड़ा हुआ है, लेकिन फिर भी किसान यूनियन को कानून के किसी भी प्रावधान पर कोई आपत्ति है तो भारत सरकार उन्हें सुनने के लिए भी तैयार है, चर्चा करने के लिए तैयार है और निराकरण करने के लिए तैयार है।
During Saturday's farmer protest, scenes of clashes surfaced from many locations. The protesters were not only seen hampering the law and order situation, but also violated several COVID-19 related protocols. In Punjab, agitating farmers affected the law and order situation. Kisan Mazdoor Sangharsh Committee was seen protesting outside the district administrative complex in Amritsar. Whereas in Odisha, agitating farmers presented a memorandum in front of the Raj Bhavan in Bhubaneswar. Disregarding COVID-19 guidelines, the protesters submitted a demand letter in the name of the governor.
गवर्नर के माध्यम से राष्ट्रपति को स्मारक पत्र देने आए हैं करीब करीब दिल्ली में जो आंदोलन चल रहा है संयुक्त किसान मोर्चा की तरफ से, जिसका नवनिर्माण किसान संगठन एक पार्ट है, वो आंदोलन करीब 7 महीने पूरी हो चुकी है।
In Panchkula, violent clashes broke out between farmers and the police. Thousands of farmers came out on the streets without wearing masks in Panchkula to hand over the memorandum to Haryana's governor in Chandigarh. The scenes went ugly when the protesters broke barriers deputed by police personnel, flouting all rules and protocols of COVID-19.
राज्यपाल को ज्ञापन देने के लिए जो ये जमावड़ा किसानों का हुआ, बड़ी भीड़ हुई है और रोडों पे बड़ी दिक्कतें आ रही हैं। अभी हमने देखा कि वहाँ पे लोगों ने मास्क नहीं लगाए हुए हैं और काफ़ी हजूम है किसानों का, जिससे हमें संक्रमण का बड़ा खतरा है। अभी रोड पे जाम है और दिक्कतें जो आवागमन है, जो रोड जाम की हुई है किसानों ने, उससे बहुत बड़ी दिक्कतें हो रही हैं।
In Lucknow, the police was successful in blocking the way of protesters near the Bapu Bhavan. However, around half a dozen farmers gathered later on and reached out to the governor to submit the memorandum. In Delhi, 6 farmer leaders reached Delhi's Lieutenant Governor Anil Baital in the morning but were unable to meet the Lieutenant Governor. Speaking on farmers' protest, Delhi Police Commissioner said that the police was all equipped and had made elaborate arrangements to prevent any untoward incident.
बॉर्डर के से और दिल्ली के अन्य जगहों से कुछ लोग आए हैं और उनको मुलाकात करा दिया गया है। ऐसी इंफॉर्मेशन या चीज़ें तो हमेशा हम संज्ञान लेके रखते हैं और उसका इंतज़ाम भी करते हैं।
Earlier, the centre had held 11 consecutive rounds of talk with agitating farmers, making every effort to clear the doubts of the farmers on farm reform laws. An expert committee constituted by Supreme Court also held discussions with all the leaders of protesters. In continuation of today's protest and tractor rally, the centre has once again proposed to hold peaceful talk with the farmers in order to reach a consensus. O.P. Yadav's report, DD India.
Right, in other news, Saturday marked the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. Now, this day is observed as an initiative to strengthen action and cooperation to achieve the goal of an international society free of drug abuse. More in the next report.
The UN General Assembly decided to observe 26 June as the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking as an expression of its determination to strengthen action and cooperation to achieve the goal of an international society which is free of drug abuse. Supported each year by individuals, communities and various organizations all over the world, this global observance aims to raise awareness of the major problem that illicit drugs present to society. On the occasion, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has lauded all those working at the grassroots to eliminate the menace of drugs from our society. In a tweet, he said, "Today on International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, I laud all working at the grassroots to eliminate the menace of drugs from our society. Every such effort to save lives is vital. After all, drugs bring with it darkness, destruction and devastation." PM Modi even shared an old Mann Ki Baat episode which contained many aspects of overcoming the drugs menace.
मैं जानता हूं, ड्रग्स 3 बातों को लाता है और मैं उसको कहूंगा, एक बुराइयों वाला एक 3D है। मनोरंजन के 3D की मैं बात नहीं कर रहा हूं। एक D है डार्कनेस, दूसरा D है डिस्ट्रक्शन और तीसरा D है डिवास्टेशन। नशा अंधेरी गली में ले जाता है, विनाश के मोड़ पे आकर खड़ा कर देता है और बर्बादी का मंजर, इसके सिवाय आपके नसीब में कुछ नहीं होता है।
Union Home Minister Amit Shah also tweeted on the occasion and said on International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, the PM Modi government reiterates its commitment towards the zero tolerance policy against all kind of narcotics and said that he applauds the efforts of the Narcotics Control Bureau of India personnel towards eliminating the drugs menace in India. Various drives took place in the country and the world today. Bike rallies were organized in Mumbai to spread awareness. The bike rally was held for cops by Mumbai Police's anti-narcotics cell. The NCB also distributed t-shirts with the messages "Say no to drugs, say yes to life."
एंटी नारकोटिक सेल की तरफ से अगले 15 दिन भी बहुत से प्रोग्राम होंगे। जो भीड़ भरी जगह है वहाँ पे बड़े बड़े बैनर्स लगाए जाएंगे। अभी तो आपने देखा ही है कि हमने कुछ स्टिकर्स भी व्हीकल्स पे लगाए। कार्यक्रम के माध्यम से हम पीपल्स अवेयरनेस के बारे में काम कर रहे हैं।
Coming to the theme this year, the theme of this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking is Share Facts on Drugs, Save Lives, emphasizing the importance of strengthening the evidence-based and raising public awareness so that the international community, governments, civil society, families and youth can make informed decisions, better target efforts to prevent and treat drug use and tackle world drug challenges. Secretary General of the United Nations Antonio Guthries has tweeted urging all countries to take action, building on agreed international frameworks and drawing on UN support for health and justice. Stressing on the theme this year, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime Executive Director Karda highlighted the theme and said that the theme sheds light on evidence-based approaches and also added that health and safety depend on reliable information.
Awareness of the risks and access to evidence-based treatment and care can help prevent such tragedies. The COVID pandemic has shown us the vital role of trustworthy scientific information and the power of community in influencing health choices. We must urgently leverage this potential to address the world drug problem. The theme of this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking is Share Facts on Drugs, Save Lives. It highlights the need for evidence-based approaches to equip the public, as well as health and service providers and decision makers, with the tools to inform choices and effective services. Health and safety depend on reliable information.
As per UNODC Executive Director Karda, a lower perception of drug use risks has been linked to higher rates of drug use. And the findings of UNODC's 2021 World Drug Report highlight the need to close the gap between perception and reality to educate young people and safeguard public health. Bureau Report, DD India.
As part of a new collective effort called Track the Truth, some retired IPS officers have initiated a collaboration to present facts and opinions on issues regarding national security. As one of their first endeavors, they've written an open letter to the Prime Minister on the current events in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this letter has been signed by 15 retired IPS officers, including 10 former DGPs of states. Right, now take a look at what else is making news around India in our National Roundup segment.
The Maharashtra unit of the BJP held Chakka Jam protests across the state to press for its demand for restoring reservation for the other backward classes in local governing bodies. Leader of the opposition in the assembly, Devendra Fadnavis, and many other leaders were taken into custody by the Mumbai police. A court on Saturday remanded two aides, Personal Secretary Sanjeev Palande and Personal Assistant Kundan Shinde of former Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh in Enforcement Directorate custody till July 1st in connection with a money laundering case lodged against the NCP politician. The ED has provisionally attached immovable assets worth ₹6 crore jointly owned by West End Pigments and Chemicals Private Limited and Deshpran Properties Limited under the PMLA in illegal coal mining case. The BJP has appointed Bhabesh Kalita, MLA from Rangia Assembly constituency of Kamrup district of Assam, as the president of the party's state unit. At the same time, party president JP Nadda appointed Sharda Devi as the president of the party's Manipur unit. Former president of Lok Janshakti Party Chirag Paswan has accused his uncle Pashupatinath Paras and said that the people of his family have done the work of breaking the Lok Janshakti Party. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has announced that in the upcoming Tokyo Olympic Games, an amount of Rs 3 crore will be given to the gold medal winners, Rs 2 crore to the silver medalists, and Rs 1 crore to the bronze medal winners. The Shiromani Akali Dal Chief Sukhbir Singh Badal has appeared before the Special Investigation Team that is probing the 2015 Kotkapura police firing incident. The matter pertains to the alleged sacrilege of religious scripture. Rain lashed parts of the national capital today evening and brought the rising mercury down. Several parts of Delhi, including Vijay Chowk, Moti Bagh, Daryaganj, Dwarka and India Gate received rains.
The Indian High Commission in Dhaka, in a tweet, mentioned about Indian Air Force Chief Air Chief Marshal Rakesh Kumar Singh Bhadoria's arrival in Dhaka on Saturday on a 3-day visit at the invitation of the Chief of Air Staff of Bangladesh Air Force. Now, this is his second visit to Bangladesh on assuming command of the Indian Air Force. And External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is currently on a 3-day visit to Greece. He is visiting Greece at the invitation of his Greek counterpart Nikos Dendias as the country celebrates its 200th anniversary of independence. Dr. Jaishankar held bilateral talks with his counterpart. He also unveiled the statue of Mahatma Gandhi in Athens today. The statue will act as a strong symbol of friendship between the two countries. The Greek Foreign Minister signed and handed over the agreement on the International Solar Alliance to the Indian side, and the minister welcomed Greece to the family of the ISA. And both nations emphasized that the agreement will assist the two countries in realizing the energy goals set by the respective governments to make renewable energy a significant part of the energy supply. The ministers also held talks to further strengthen the ongoing cooperation in several areas such as trade and investment, science and technology, culture, academics, and people-to-people ties. In a tweet, Minister Jaishankar said, "Just concluded official talks with FM Nikos Dendias was productive bilaterally and insightful on many regional and global issues, agreed to step up the pace of engagement and work towards a strategic partnership." To some international news now. US President Joe Biden hosted President Ashraf Ghani and High Council for National Reconciliation Chairperson Abdullah at the White House. Biden called on the people of Afghanistan to decide their future as the US begins pulling out its troops from the war-torn country. He said the US support for Afghanistan will continue even after the pullout.
It is a beginning of a new chapter in the US-Afghanistan ties. As United States advances to pull out its last remaining troops from Afghanistan, both nations are now looking forward to re-establishing their relationship. This was evident when US President Joe Biden met Afghan President Ashraf Ghani and his former political foe and High Council for National Reconciliation Chairman Abdullah at the White House in Washington on Friday. In his first meeting as president with Ashraf Ghani, Biden called on Afghans to decide the future of their country. Biden said the US support for Afghanistan was not ending but would be sustained despite the US pullout.
The partnership between Afghanistan and the United States is not ending. It's going to be sustained. And, our troops may be leaving, but support for Afghanistan is not ending in terms of support and maintenance of helping maintain their military as well as economic and political support. Afghans are going to have to decide their future, what they want, but it won't be for lack of us being helped. There's going to be a senseless violence that has to stop, but it's going to be very difficult. But we're going to stick with you.
Afghan President Ashraf Ghani's visit comes at a time when violence is surging across Afghanistan as government forces struggle to beat back Taliban advances. United States sent its troops in Afghanistan in 2001 following the 9/11 attacks. The US troops have remained in Afghanistan for nearly 2 decades. As US continues to pull out troops, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani paid his tribute to the 2,448 Americans who have been killed in Afghanistan and also to over 1 million American veterans who have served there. Ashraf Ghani said that the nations are now entering into a new chapter of a relationship where the partnership would not be military.
President Biden's decision has been historic. It has made everybody recalculate and reconsider. We are here to respect it and support it. We are entering into a new chapter of our relationship where the partnership with the United States would not be military, but comprehensive regarding our mutual interest. And we're very encouraged and satisfied that this partnership is taking place. Thank you.
The meeting between the leaders was held to discuss an array of issues stemming from United States withdrawal of troops. According to a statement released by the White House, during the meeting, Biden emphasized on United States support for the Afghan people, including Afghan women, girls and minorities through civilian, development and humanitarian aid. The leaders also discussed about the continued provision of security assistance to support Afghan national defense and security forces. On the COVID situation in Afghanistan, the United States noted additional emergency assistance, including 3 million doses of vaccines to help the Afghan government deal with the pandemic. Leaders agreed upon need for unity among Afghan leaders in support of peace and stability. President Biden reaffirmed the US commitment to fully support intra-Afghan negotiations. The leaders also agreed upon the strong bilateral partnership to continue despite the troop withdrawal. The issues were also discussed between the Afghan delegation and United States Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who also reiterated support for Afghanistan after troop withdrawal. The United States in April had announced that all US forces would be out of Afghanistan by the anniversary of the September 11, 2001 attacks. The decision was made even after a 2020 deal between US and Taliban forged under former US President Donald Trump set May 1st as the deadline. Bureau Report, DD India.
Right, in more international news, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been sentenced to 22.5 years in prison for the murder of George Floyd. The jury found Chauvin responsible for unintentional second-degree murder, third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter of Black American George Floyd. Now, Chauvin was arrested in May 2020 after a video showcasing him as handcuffing George Floyd galvanized a national protest movement against racism. U.S. President Joe Biden called the prison sentence for former Derek Chauvin as appropriate. In southern Germany, a Somali immigrant stabbed at least 3 people to death and injured 5 people. Police stopped and arrested the attacker in the town of Würzburg by firing a bullet through his thigh. They said his injuries were not life-threatening. Police also said that there was no indication that there were any other attackers and that the situation was now under control. A helicopter carrying Colombia's president has been struck by multiple bullets in an attack. A spokesperson said no one was injured in the attack. The helicopter was carrying the president and others who were flying through Colombia's Catatumbo region. The president said security personnel have been given clear instructions to find those behind the attack. COVID-19 infections are on a continuous rise worldwide. So far, over 181 million people have contracted the virus, while over 165 million patients have recovered from the virus. Over 392,000 people worldwide have lost their lives to the virus. The US remains the worst hit, with over 34 million people having tested positive for the virus. Over 619,000 people have lost their lives in the United States so far. Australia's Sydney city and some surrounding areas entered a hard 2-week coronavirus lockdown on Saturday as the country continues its battle against a more infectious Delta variant of COVID-19. The lockdown announced by New South Wales Chief Minister Gladys Berejiklian will include the regions of Blue Mountains, Central Coast and Wollongong, which surround Sydney. Spain on Saturday relaxed restrictions pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic and allowed people to ditch their face masks for the first time in more than a year. Under the country's new relaxed rules, people do not need to wear a mask outdoors, but people still have to use them indoors or in crowded outdoor spaces where social distancing is impossible. Spain has also administered at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccines to half of its population. Right, the knockout matches of Euro 2020 will commence from today. The first match will be played between Wales and Denmark. Now, Wales's first match with Switzerland ended in a draw. They beat Turkey 2-0 but lost to Italy. On the other hand, Denmark lost their first two group matches, but the team bounced back to beat Russia 4-1. In another match, Italy will be up against Austria at Wembley. Italy looks the stronger of the two. They have young players and their record against Austria is also better. Italy have won 16 of 35 matches played against Austria. And with that, it's a wrap. But news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Remember, do wear a mask, preferably two, like I am. It's for your own good. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend. Bye.